And more people are more and more connected than ever today. We just heard from Mr. Ackerman what that means in the workplace and what can be done to improve that. All of this is happening, of course, because everyone has a mobile device. Now, this means big opportunities and big risks for the mobile industry. We're going to have a conversation in just a moment to talk about what the risks and the challenges are for the mobile industry, how they can use open internet sources to improve their chances in the future. Before we get to that, though, we want to remind everyone that there are two other stages this year where you can attend. There's one just downstairs, the open stage where you can go and talk to people who have startups, people who have new ideas that they'd like to share. You can ask them direct questions one-on-one or in a group situation. There is also the power stage where workshops will be taking place. You can attend any of those. There's more than 20 on offer this week, and that is just around the corner from here. So with that said, we'd like to get now to a conversation that I would like you to listen in on, a conversation about big opportunities and big risks for the mobile industry. I'm happy to welcome on stage now the CEO of Mozilla Corporations, Gary Kovacs, and the head of Netzwelt at Spiegel Online, Mr. Christian Stöcker. Good morning, gentlemen. Hi, good morning. Hello. Hello.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy that you all made it. And I'm very happy to talk to Gary, who's a veteran of this industry, who's worked for IBM, SAP, various companies, has been in this industry for many years, and is now fighting the good fight with Mozilla. I'm sure you're all avid Firefox users, apart from those working for Microsoft or Google. And that actually leads me to my first question, Gary. Is Google mad at you?
Today, or last week, or a month ago, or
in general?
No, not that I'm aware of. They usually tell me when they're mad at us, but no. You know, Google's huge. They're doing a lot of great things. They've got a lot of different parts to them. So we're going to compete in places, and we're going to cooperate in many places. Overall, we share the same view of the world, and the power of the web as a central unifying force. We go about it in different ways in certain places, but we also, from our desktop, send them a lot of value through the browser relative to their search, and they compensate us back for that. So where we do disagree, we tend to work that out, but currently it's pretty harmonious.
Mm-hmm. You said that they're compensating you for sending you users through especially through the search box in Firefox, obviously.
Yes.
It's rumored that the last deal you personally, I think, made with them was about $1 billion. I don't know what
It's rumored to be.
It's rumored to be
somewhere around $1 billion. Yeah. So we never disclosed it.
But so it's a lot of money that they give you to, as I said, fight the good fight. At the same time, obviously Firefox was there before Chrome. It is a competitor to their own product, but they obviously somehow managed to accommodate that. But now you're using their money to creating a direct competitor to their very successful Android operating system for smartphones. So have you had a ring from Larry Page about that?
No, we've talked about it. It never comes up in that context. Mm-hmm. That's a sensational context. It's not actually how the real world looks at things, that they are funding us to compete with them. You know, we could reverse that and say we're sending them search so that they can compete with us, which would, you know, it's a sort of it would be a ridiculous way for us to think about things. We have a relationship with their search side of the business that's long-standing, 10+ years, valuable for both sides, I think economically equitable. On the other side, we have a approach in mobile and approach on the browser itself that is in some ways consistent, in some ways different, and that competition is healthy for users. So whether or not we were doing that, the economic relationship on the search side still is very valuable for both sides and would continue. What we do with that money is really inconsequential.
Is your goal to take market share from Android and iOS, though, with Firefox OS?
No. The goal is not market share. The goal is to deliver the open web. So I think a lot of people that are Firefox users, particularly here in Germany, where we're nearly 50% of the market, because privacy and a lot of the characteristics that are embodied in Firefox are so important to this culture, we're doing the same thing in mobile. We're trying to ensure that the open web is the way that people connect. And today, mobile devices are not as open as they could be. So we have two sets of ecosystems and then a few others with Nokia and RIM, or BlackBerry now, and some of the others that are coming up that are asking users to choose, where do I want to live my online life in one of these ecosystems? Where do I want my music, my apps, my games, my assets? And the switching costs are significant. As we go online, the next 2 billion people are coming online over the next 5 years. So the size of the internet population is going to double. What took 22 years to get to this point is going to double in the next 5 years. Yeah. So if we thought we were moving fast before, we're about to go into hyperspace. And as a result, it's impossible for me to believe that 1 or 2 companies, through their own systems, are going to satisfy 4 or 5, 6 billion people. The open web is what we need to rely on to do that, just as we did on the desktop. And history tells us that as soon as we do that, the explosion of content is a straight vertical rise. It happened on the desktop. It's going to happen in mobile, despite the fact that a lot of people think there's a lot of content in mobile. The point on that is there is a lot of great global content, but people living in Slovakia and the deep recesses in a favela in Brazil, they don't always just want a global thing where you throw stones or grenades at birds. They, as enticing as that is for our lives, I wish I would have thought of it. But what they want is things that are very local to them. They want their local sports scores, and they want to look at the games in their local football pitches and so forth. And that's not as easy to do if we're relying on a group of developers that sit in Mountain View or somewhere in the developed world. It's just very difficult, and that's exactly why the web has been the web so successful. So we believe that's the way mobile needs to evolve without any central governing commercial organization. So that's our goal. It's not to take market share. We'll get a little bit of market share, which will be important, because then people will listen to you. They will take it seriously. We made a great first step when we launched the initiative last week at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. But we have more work to do for sure.
So you talk about the open web, and obviously one of the great newer developments that seem to threaten that is the whole idea of an app economy and closed up little pieces of software that have a new name now, but essentially are licensed pieces of software. So what's Mozilla or Firefox OS's position on the idea of an app going to be?
Well, apps are great. Let me just start with that. They showed the way when the web wasn't ready. So 5 years ago, the web wasn't ready. We didn't have APIs and other connection points that allowed developers to create a really engaging experience. So apps surfaced and have done a great job, but now the web is ready. So today, though, what most people don't realize is that an app, in most cases, is a container, a customized container for web content. You go to your stock trading application, it's not pulling data from the app, it's pulling it from the web, but it's presenting it to you in a unique, secure way. So often we get confused between an app and a browser. That's an interesting discussion, but apps themselves could be web apps that just look and feel like a native app today. And we're seeing much, much, much more of that already. So our approach with Firefox OS is that web apps should exist as a first-class citizen on the home screen. Or you could just do it through a browser, or the home screen itself in many cases could offer that content just on a limited time use. Because often you want to use an app for something very, very limited, like booking a restaurant tonight here in Hanover. I probably don't want that app to live on my home screen with the 2,700 additional apps that I have on there over the next week. I want to get rid of it. So I don't want to have it come up and constantly remind me to update and upgrade and all the rest of it. I just want to use it and forget it. And that's perfectly tailored for web apps, if you will, that are occasional use or limited use. So it'll be a similar approach in many respects, but it'll be very different in the respect I just shared.
So just to clarify that, so obviously all of this relies very much on having a constant online connection with your phone, as long as it's a web app. So will there be the possibility to actually install software on your phone as well?
Yeah, you know, the device itself is will behave just like any other smartphone. Very, very efficient, very fast, very engaging. And if you swipe to the left, you'll be able to search whatever content you want. It'll go out and get that from the web, and present it to you in an immersive way. And then if you press and hold on that particular piece of content, it'll install it with the same logo that you're used to and same approach on your home screen. But the difference is when you press it, it'll be a web app. It won't be some native app that's built in a proprietary language, or not, but it'll be in simple web form, and therefore the number of those that exist will be significantly greater. But over time, that app you may or may not use, but it'll be simply a web app. So it'll look and feel like a native app. That's what I mean. The line between apps and web content today is blurred and doesn't really need to be there. Both will exist, but we believe that if we create a way for HTML5 pages to be installed as apps, and I know it's kind of a simple concept, but you have to see it, then the 10 million web developers now have an ability to create. Whereas in the other systems, I mean, there's hundreds of thousands, which is a sizable number, but it doesn't come anywhere close to 10 million. So, you know, it'll look and feel similar, but it'll be very, very different.
So that focus on HTML5 obviously is a major point for Firefox OS. Could you name a few other aspects that you think differentiate your OS from iPhone and Android OS?
Yeah, look, you know, in the consumer's mind, a consumer wants the smartphone to work. They want to get their content. They want it to be engaging. That will happen. It is engaging. It works offline because the web now has an offline data cache ability. So if I download the New York Times app or Spiegel, and it's the web app and it's downloaded on my home page, I can be in airplane mode, I can click on it, I have content. Obviously, it's not the most updated content, just as a native app on any of the other platforms isn't, because it has to go get it from the web. But it has whatever content I last loaded, it's fully immersive, I can see it, I can play the videos, I can engage with it, because it's utilizing a function of the web that we've created to store that local data, just as you would expect any other smartphone to do. And the minute I'm now back online, I take it off airplane mode, it'll refresh that content, it'll look and feel just like it did before, but with updated content. So that's the same behavior, that's all the user cares about. Over time, however, I don't just want Spiegel, I want, for me, being a Canadian, I want hockey scores in Northern Canada. There's no app for that I've been able to find. I continue to look because they're a league that nobody really pays attention to, except I played there when I was younger. And I want to follow those scores. So I'll be able to do that on the web. You know, 60% of everybody that looked up data on the Olympics looked on the web through a browser. So there is a high demand for that kind of content. It's just not being met today. And that's how we're approaching it.
Do you expect, I mean, obviously with HTML5 and all the other technologies that are coming up now, all those possibilities grow and get better and better. Do you expect the model of the app as we have it now to dwindle and fade eventually, and your future competitors to come around to that way of thinking?
Well, so it's always controversial when I give this opinion, but I'm sticking to it.
I'm looking for that.
The app has been around for 6 years. Most of us, myself included, have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apps. So much so that I actually find it difficult to navigate through my home screens and do something with them. And then every time I turn on my phone, I seem to get this little icon that says you have 107 updates to do. And the minute I hit update, it's a pain, and I'm not really sure what it's doing. So it's not the most current model. So it will definitely evolve. Apps will not evolve to a browser-based world, because the browser is also a model that doesn't work as efficiently on a mobile device as it does a desktop. You know, browser we've optimized for a bigger and bigger piece of real estate, and the best we've done, and I'll take blame for this as well, is on a mobile device to just shrunk the experience. You know, we forgot to send glasses so that people could read it, but it isn't a particularly engaging experience. So both of those models will evolve. There's lots of organizations working on that. But in the meantime, you know, simple web apps that can be used, we have a new discovery mechanism for content, where it's not by app, but it's by subject matter. So if I search on CBIT, I will not only get apps and directions and all the other pieces, but I'll have them all presented on one page that'll look like a home screen, but it's actually just the content that I want. And it's a very different approach to what the user is looking for. I might want to engage with some of those just for the moment, in which case it'll present in its own native shell, so not a browser. Or I might want to press and hold to have it installed on the home screen because I'm here at CBIT for the week and I want to go back to that. Either one of those can be an occasional and then just delete it at the end of the week, but that's a different approach to the discovery. Over time, I actually believe apps go even further. I don't see a reason why every app couldn't simply be a URL, which is saying we search for it, we download it. Why do we have to go to a specific store? And why do we have to each go to one store depending on what phone we buy? Nobody can convince me, or hasn't been yet, that 5 billion people will go online and all shop at the same store. None of us do in the real world. Why does that need to be true? Why would that hold out?
Well, in this country, everybody uses Google. Not they don't shop there, but I mean, they have a one-stop shop for all their web searching needs, basically.
Yeah, so search is different than the Google Play Store. Google Play Store will be augmented with many other stores that have very unique content that will serve diverse user needs. And that's what I'm referring to. There'll be lots of stores. There'll be lots of billing mechanisms. It's just not the way it is today, but it has to evolve.
Billing mechanism is a good keyword for me. Is Firefox OS, or are your future plans including any new ideas about monetization for Mozilla? Or is Google going to be your financier for the next years?
Well, Firefox OS will be, we don't have specific plans to monetize. We're a not-for-profit. Our goal is to ensure the web stays open. And we do that by doing things that others don't have a commercial interest to do. So as we move over to mobile, what we've been able to do is invest a significant amount of research by developing 28 new APIs for mobile devices. It was very difficult 2 years ago for a developer of a web page to access the accelerometer or the camera, simple things. Today, those are standard APIs, about half of which have been adopted by the standards body, the W3C. There isn't a clear commercial interest for others to do that because they have their own proprietary way to access the camera or the accelerometer or some of the touch events, and it works with their system. But the user doesn't benefit, and the developer doesn't benefit. And so, as a result, that's what our currency is. Over time, we might monetize by directing search traffic, but that's a secondary consideration for us at this point.
Right. Are there any deals in place for Firefox OS yet, analogous to the Firefox browser deal?
There are deals that are being developed, yes.
Okay. I'll be frank, especially amongst the people responsible for actually making money in my edge of the woods, the people who pay my wages. Unfortunately, they're paid practically 100% through advertising income. And I've spoken to a few people over the last few days, and they were all worried about Firefox OS because, I'll give you an example. At Spiegel Online, we have a lot of very internet-savvy readers, and a lot of them use Firefox. We've championed Firefox for many years, and a lot of them use ad blockers on a given day, depending on the topic that people are reading about, 20 to 30%, which is something that actually hurts us in terms of money.
Yes.
And don't quote those numbers, please. I've never said anything like this.
Confidential.
So, obviously, the idea of having an ecosystem, an online ecosystem, a mobile ecosystem that is so open to ad blocking is something that a lot of people in the industry feel threatened by. Do you have a warm word for those people?
Well, are you talking about Firefox OS or the Firefox cookie?
No, I'm talking about ad blockers and then Firefox OS right now.
Well, ad blockers exist across every OS today, and across every browser. Look, ad blockers, in my view, are it's not a technology direction that our organization is putting forward to hurt the industry. It is a statement that users are upset with the current model, and that the volume is getting fairly loud. So we could put our heads in the sand and believe that that's not true, and we could resist it by locking technology to avoid ad blockers. Users will find a voice however that happens to go. So mobile today, the power of an OS is to be able, I believe, to be able to make it open. There hasn't been a closed system that over time hasn't had to become more open and to continue to be relevant. And so Firefox OS, I think what you're referring to is because it's so flexible and people can develop for it, they develop things like ad blockers that are very powerful. And to me, that's a statement by users that they want a different way to be monetized. And I think we need to listen to it. So we're not doing anything in Firefox OS to close some of those APIs or close some of those ways, because the minute we do that, then we get into a conflict everywhere else. Do we close some of the other ones that make it? And for us, then the whole purpose of Mozilla, to keep the web open where everybody can participate with their voice, putting the user front and center, that becomes compromised, and we just won't do that.
So what would your advice be for all those I mean, obviously a lot of what is on, especially on the open web right now, which is not paid content, is monetized through advertising. What would your advice to advertisers and people relying on that sort of income?
Well, the percentage of people that use an ad blocker is very low. And I mean, the behavior of an ad blocker is it blocks until I'm missing some piece of content. I want some sites to remember who I am. I want some sites to serve me ads. So users over time, their use pattern is they accept an ad, they accept an ad, they accept another ad, they go to another site, they accept an ad. So over time, they build the syllabus, if you will, of the ads that they want to see from the sites that they want to engage with. What an ad blocker usually is, it's a statement by the user that they don't want to be bombarded by ads from everybody and anybody. I don't want to be on a car site getting ads for my online education or to enhance my manhood. And so ad blockers largely are, although more education is always good, but over time they get to a place where they're very comfortable, and the noise level, if you will, from the advertisers drops significantly. So it's just a period of time where people get what they want.
Another issue, and you just referred to that the people who pay my wages are worried about is the cookie policy of Firefox 22, which is, if I'm correct, the idea to block third-party cookies across the board. And I'll tell you what the problem that, I mean, I'm all for giving the user a choice about being tracked or not being tracked, and we've been annoying our own people by writing about this for years now. But there's a number of issues that seem to be really difficult for German, especially right now, German advertising industry. And there's two organizations that measure internet usage and ad performance, the AGOF and the IVW. And they don't track users as such, but they count how many users see an ad, and obviously they have to do that across a range of publications. My IT people tell me that neither of these will work when third-party cookies are blocked. And they also tell me something that will annoy our users now, and that our frequency cap for online video ads won't work anymore. So users will have to see the same ad again and again and again, because the cookie that tells us that they've seen it can't be set anymore. Is that our problem, or is there a way to deal with it?
I think it's important to, so for those that don't have the context.
I'm sorry, this is complicated. But
in Firefox, we announced an intent, and we actually landed something called a patch, which is just a chunk of code, which adds a function in our very, very, very experimental build of Firefox to allow users to block third-party cookies. And for those of you that don't know about cookies, I never thought 15 years ago we'd be having a discussion about cookies in the public domain, but and not in the chocolate chip variety. But it's very topical because privacy is very topical. So this is all under the heading of privacy, and users are now starting to learn that online they are the asset that's being bought and sold and traded. And in that process, the amount of data that's being collected on us, the more we go online, the more places we go, that grows exponentially. So there's a tremendous amount of data being captured by each one of us online, and it's being used for lots of different things, most principally to sell us stuff. So a third-party cookie is different than a first-party cookie, because a first-party cookie is delivered when I go to a site. I go to Mercedes-Benz. I don't. I go to something much lower down the value chain, but some of you might go to Mercedes-Benz, and they'll drop a cookie on your browser page, or if you will, so that they know and can understand when you come back. Third parties are people that you don't have a relationship, that track you from a distance. And they amalgamate that data to sell to advertisers. So the issue is, users don't know this is happening, and up until we landed this patch in Firefox, didn't have an ability to say, you know, I don't want that to happen. So I want to make a statement here categorically that we do not oppose anything that happens on the internet. What we want is for user transparency to be the way that it all happens. So if the users are aware and they believe that there's value by allowing themselves to be tracked by specific third parties, they can make that choice. Previous to this, they don't have that choice to make. So in your case of a YouTube video or a video delivering the same ads, if that's annoying, the user can go in and opt to have that third-party cookie set, and that'll go away. Although behaviorally, the example you gave is not accurate, just I want to say, but it'll take a little too long to kind of explain the alternative. By third-party cookies, all we want to see happen is for the user choice to be at the center of the internet. So I want a third-party cookie to happen, I can make that choice. The other way that it happens is if I've actually gone and interacted with a widget or some thing that's happened in my browser directly, that third-party cookie will actually be set because I've now interacted with that piece of content that's not directly related to the page I'm on. And it'll remember that preference for the future. So again, over time, the user's behavior will determine what's served of them. At the outset, it'll start from a default of no third-party cookies. And we believe the user has the right to protect their privacy online, which is why we did what we did.
And we're all looking forward to seeing how this plays out in the market and how big of a role this will play in the next few years. Our time is up, unfortunately. I thank you all very much for your attention, and Gary, thank you very much for a very enlightening conversation.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.